What's up guys, Jivan back with another Season 7 video. A lot of people have been coming to me and saying, Jivan, I've hit a skill cap, I feel like I can't get better. Or Jivan, is it too late to get into competition? I'm trying to get back into Fortnite, I want to be able to compete. Well, you've come to the right video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a full routine to improve. I'm going to be basically just updating you on everything you need to succeed in Fortnite. If you can master all of these skills, then you'll be at a competitive level. Before we hop into this video, please consider using code JivanTV in the Fortnite item shop, or at least make sure you're using somebody's code because it helps us out a ton. Now let's get into this video. So first thing we're going to talk about is everything you need to succeed in Fortnite and how you can get these skills to a good level. Before we get started with this section, just know every single creative map code is going to be in the description, along with links to tutorials on how to use those maps the best. So let's get it. The things you need to succeed are good aim, that's the most important thing, getting your aim up to a competitive level. You also need good piece control, and this doesn't just mean being able to box up opponents, it means being able to piece control opponents from behind cover, piece control them without taking damage. It's one of the most important skills in Fortnite. You're also going to need to know how to set up good peek shots. You're going to want to get 3 drop spots mastered. 1 should be an easy drop spot. 2 should be a medium level, and then 3, a hot drop. It's important to have 3 drop spots down in easy, medium, and hard because if you're having a really bad day, you're going to want to switch it up and go to an easy spot to build confidence. They can also come in handy during tournaments when you want to be playing for placement. And then a medium drop for when you're feeling good but you don't want to go to a full-on sweaty drop. And then a hard drop for, if you're really trying to W key and get a high kill win. And then last thing, you need to really understand rotations. You need to know how to find the dead side of zone where the least amount of players are going to be, and also where the hot side is so that if you're trying to get a high kill win, you can go to the hot side of the map and pick a ton of fights. So those are the main things you need to get down to be at a competitive level. I'm going to go through them one by one on how you can get them to be the absolute best, the fastest. This is how I practice. And then I'll get into some other things that you should be doing in your practice routine. So first off, aim. How should you be practicing this? Me personally, I go into this map called Headshot Only Turtle Wars by Panville. In this map, you can only kill players if you hit a perfect 200 pump. If you don't hit them with a perfect 200, they're going to regen health in like half a second. So this map is really good for shotgun aim training. The other map I encourage you to go to is Raider's new 1v1 aim trainer. He just recently made this map a couple weeks ago, and it's really good. This is really good for up-close tracking, flick shots, and he has some far-away tracking courses. So this will really fit in with the launchpad meta. If you practice in this map, when you see somebody launchpadding, you'll know exactly what to do to hit those shots. Now regarding piece control, again, we're going to go to another Raider map. I recommend 3 maps, his piece control edit course, and then his 2 piece control practice maps. Remember, all these links are going to be in the description. The reason I like his edit course map is because this will practice not only your piece control, but also your edit coursing, which is really good to build consistency in your editing. Now, the most important thing when doing piece control in these maps is to practice the best techniques. It's not as simple as it used to be back in Chapter 1, Nowadays, if you run at somebody and box them up without doing it safely, you're going to get 200 pumped. So doing piece control behind window peaks and right-hand edits, that's the move now, and I have a whole entire tutorial on how to do this the best way. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's in the description. Piece control without taking damage. That's the name of it. Next up, we got peek shots. For this, if you don't have experience on how to set up right-hand peeks, I definitely recommend going and checking out my beginner to master peek shot guide. You can practice this in Raiders piece control practice maps too. The thing is, you just need to know how to set them up the best so that you can practice it, which is why I recommend checking out that video if you don't have experience with it. Now, I pretty much explained what I wanted to say about drop spots. You want to have 3 difficulties of them. An easy drop spot would be somewhere that's not a named location, and it's just like a couple small houses in a little circle. You might be contested by 1 or 2 people if you go to one of these spots in Arena, but it's not going to be as hard as, 5 or 10 people contesting you at a POI. Or in other words, a named location. So that's an easy drop spot. A medium drop spot would be a non-named location, but it has a lot more loot. For example, Weather Station, it's a pretty big outskirt spot. It has a lot of loot, but it's usually contested by 2 or 3 people. So medium drop spots are just outskirt locations that are a little bit bigger than level 1 drop spots. And then named locations are going to be the harder ones. Some name locations are easier because they have less good loot, maybe there's not an NPC or an upgrade place, but I definitely recommend studying the Fortnite.gg map and building some loot paths from there. On that website, you can see everything from NPCs to upgrade stations to vending machines, everything. So if you haven't studied that, you definitely should. I need to study it. I need to figure out where everything is, to be honest. Then when it comes to rotations, you just need to be able to learn to predict where people are going to be rotating from. I have an entire tutorial on how to find dead side of zone, which I'll link in the description, but for the most part, it's just going to be the far side of a zone. So say the zone pulls all the way across the map, the far side of that zone is going to be the dead side of zone, because usually when a zone pulls far, people rotate just as far as they need to go to be in the safe zone and then fight there. So if you can get all the way to the other side of that zone, there will be probably a lot less people there. But again, if that doesn't really make sense to you, I have a really in-depth guide. Link is in the description. So now you may be wondering, like, Jivan, this is a bunch of stuff for creative practice. How do I get into arena more? So all the stuff I talked about earlier in this video, those are things that you're gonna need to be able to win most of your fights in arena. The next step is practicing it under pressure. You can practice this stuff in arena after you get the fundamentals down in these practice maps. But the fastest way to get used to fighting under pressure with these things like peek shots, piece control from behind cover, the best way to get better at them is to practice it in 1v1s in creative. So for example, 1v1 box fights, build fights, realistic fights, and zone wars. Those are going to be the places where you can improve with these things under pressure the fastest. So I definitely recommend before arena points reset on June 22nd, practice a lot in creative to get your mechanics up to speed and get your confidence to the next level. That way you're ready for the arena point reset. The way I recommend finding the sweatiest opponents is look in scrim discords. I say this all the time, if you just load into a creative fill 1v1, it might not be the hardest fight. Maybe some of you are at that level where you should be fighting in those creative fills. If they're giving you a challenge in those creative fills, then yeah, keep running those until you can win them every time. But if you feel like you can win those every time, it's no problem. Go into Scrim Discords and 1v1 people there. To find Scrim Discords, just search your region, so NAE, Scrim Discord. It's that easy. EU, Scrim Discord. NA West, Scrim Discord. Whatever your server, you'll find it there. But for Zone Wars, I recommend loading into Zone Wars with Creative Fill. This is what I do. I go to Creative, press play, go to the far left option, Discover, and then I go to the Practice tab. If you can get to the Practice tab, then all you gotta do is click 32 player Zone Wars from that tab, and it'll load you into a high pressure Zone Wars practice. Even if the players in there aren't the best, it's still really high pressure because there's so many players in a moving zone. It's good practice to just get down playing under pressure in late game, you know what I mean? So now let's talk about actual arena. How should you go about practicing in it? One thing you can try doing is try playing arena in sets of 10 games. If you're trying to prepare for a tournament, this can give you kind of a tournament mindset. You have 10 games to perform as good as you can keep track of your score, and it'll kind of get you trained to play like a tournament while you're practicing an arena. It'll force you to, keep a positive mind, play within a certain time restraint, and do the best you can in those 10 games. That's a good thing to practice if you're looking to start performing in Cash Cups. But if you really want to do well in Cash Cups, I recommend playing in Scrim Ladders or Rematch.gg Scrims. Rematch.gg is a website, and if you go to the Scrim section of the website, they do solo scrims almost every day, and they're pretty solid scrim practice. Also, you can win money while playing them. This isn't an ad. I play in the Rematch Scrims a lot, actually. They're like the only solo scrims that I actually find entertaining and solid nowadays. Because most scrim discords don't run solo scrims very often. It's all trios. But hey, if you're trying to get better in trios, go to scrim discords, go to the ranked announcements or ladder announcements section of the scrim discords, and play in the scrim ladders. That's going to be the best trio practice you can get. Oh, another thing about Rematch.gg, you can also play in 1v1s on there, and those are going to be really sweaty practice. But yeah, if you're watching this video to try to get into tournaments and start placing better, I definitely recommend running lots of scrims. I don't do scrims too often because I'm not that serious about getting competitive. I more so just do it for the content and trying to help you guys out. But scrims is one of the best ways to improve for tournaments. That's why you see a lot of pro players don't have too many arena points. It's because most of their time they're just practicing scrims. That's for the most part the only time they play. So definitely run scrims if you're trying to start placing better in tourneys. Arena is still really good practice, it's just scrims are going to be the most high-end practice. Last thing I want to talk about is how to stop dying in early, mid, and late game. What can you do to fix that? For early game, it's mostly about playing patient, playing angles, and waiting to strike. Also making sure that you have 3 different drop spots, because hot drops are oftentimes going to be very RNG. What this means is you might get bad loot, and that causes you to die, which is why a lot of times when I play Arena, I don't land at named locations. I'll get my loot up and then I push into named locations. But anyways, early game is all about playing angles and playing patiently. One way you can get better at early game is practice a lot of box fights. The reason I say this is because box fights are all about conserving mats, playing angles, and it's close quarters combat. So box fights are going to help you with early game and also late game. Because late game, a lot of times, players will be boxed up, and if you fight, you're going to be doing box fights. Now, if you're dying in mid game a lot, I definitely recommend running a lot of realistic fights. I personally don't do too many realistic fights, I do build fights because I find them more entertaining, and it's a similar idea, it's just build fights, you have unlimited mats. But run build fights or realistics. If you're practicing a lot of build fights, just make sure you don't build all the way up to the moon in these mid-game fights in Arena. Otherwise, you're going to get chopped out by them UFOs. And now for late game, the best thing you can do to improve at late game is just running a lot of zone wars. Remember, go creative, discover, practice 32-player zone wars. That's the best zone wars practice you can get. Well, the best practice you can get is playing in my zone wars that I host on stream. But I don't do those too often, especially not in the early season. We just be grinding Arena right now, baby. I'm trying to get up to 100k points this season. It's gonna be a grind. Anyways, guys, I'm telling you, if you practice all the stuff in this video, watch this back, make sure you're getting everything in this video down, you will get better, I promise you. Just don't focus on the short-term improvement, focus on the long-term improvement, because a lot of times you'll run through these practice maps a lot, you don't see improvement until weeks later sometimes. So make this season about preparing for the next one. If you're just getting back into Fortnite, it's going to take time to catch up. I still encourage you to play in all of the tournaments this season, or at least all of them that you're able to. But don't get upset with yourself if you're not placing in the money or you're not placing as well as you hope. Just focus on learning each week from your mistakes and improving on those for the next week. Just make sure you're staying positive, keeping up the grind, and practicing all the stuff I say in this video, and you will improve. Last thing, I'm constantly posting new fighting tutorials where I talk about new strategies in the game and just showing examples of how to outplay opponents, and I definitely recommend keeping up with these tutorials. Otherwise, you might fall behind meta a little bit. And last thing, make sure you're VOD reviewing your mistakes. Instead of raging at them, learn from them. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, use code JivanTV in the item shop, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.